Master to one of the most controversial style of boxing, Floyd Mayweather was taught how to fight out of a posture that has his left side facing the opponent and his right side covered by his arm. He never squares up, instead he uses the orthodox stance and Philly shell defense, more referred to as a shoulder roll, that he learned from his dad. But is this really the best stance, or is it a runaway fighter stance, as some people call it? Stay until the end of this video to learn precisely how to use his style of boxing. You have probably heard people calling Floyd a runaway fighter or a scared fighter, but that's only because Floyd's style of boxing is so unique that people aren't used to it. Mayweather's fan or not, you gotta admit that his defense was so perfect that most boxers couldn't even touch his face. Floyd finished most of his matches with a slight to no bruise on his face. This was all thanks to the Philly shell defense and him being a counter-puncher, which I will explain in a bit. To start off, Floyd Mayweather Jr. learned his Philly shell style of boxing from his dad, Mayweather Sr., who first learned it from his trainer Del Williams after a gunshot to his leg wounded him and limited his mobility. The Philly shell isn't just about the stance and positioning of the shoulder, it's about understanding how to adapt to one's abilities and strengths and use it against them. Floyd uses the shoulder roll and his positioning of himself differently with each boxer that he fights. As to come to explaining the Philly shell defense, the golden rule of boxing has always been to hit and not get hit. No one has applied the not get hit part better than Floyd Mayweather. Mayweather was simply a defensive boxer, not a brawler, not a constant puncher. What stands out the most about him is his absolute mastery over that one technique that got him to 50-0 record. And that was the Philly shell defense, brought to him by his father Mayweather Jr., which was taught to him by his trainer Del Williams. So what is the Philly shell defense? The Philly shell defense, also known as a shoulder roll, is a defensive stance in boxing, where the fighter positions themselves so their lead hand is up and tucked in towards their chin, while they're also leaning slightly away from their opponent. Their lead arm is dropped over their midsection in order to protect their body, while the backhand is tucked up towards the side of the chin to protect from the left hooks. The starting point of this technique is widely disputed, but most agree that it was created in the early 20th century by local gym rats in Philadelphia, men who were not aiming to pursue boxing in the pro ranks, but still enjoyed sparring on a regular basis at local gyms. They would use the shoulder roll as a means to rest during rounds by planting their feet and rolling off punches, while laying their lead arm on their body as opposed to holding both hands up in a high guard, which requires more energy. One of the best fighters that emerged in the 1950s was George Benton, who is credited by many as the first fighter to popularize the Philly shell and bring it to the world championship level. So if you ask how it reached us and Mayweather Jr. to popularize it, long before Jr. started his boxing career, Mayweather Sr. had a legacy of his own, getting in the ring with the likes of Sugar Ray Leonard. But unfortunately, his career was derailed by a gunshot to his scalp, which hindered his ability to dodge punches. This led him to adapting a more stationary style of boxing, like the Philly shell, to roll with the punches instead of stepping back out of range. Sr. would later on pass his knowledge to his younger son, and the rest is history. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is undoubtedly known as this era's best defensive boxer. His ability to innovate the Philly shell defense through his razor-sharp reflex and technical ability to evade punches got him to the highest ranks of boxing. With a 51-0 fight record and 15 world championships across 5 different weight classes, his opponents, most of which were undisputed champions themselves, found it hard to throw a significant punch to Floyd Mayweather Jr., to the point where they would lean on dirty tricks like headbutting or late punches to deal damage, all out of sheer frustration. Boxing historians can count on one hand how many times Floyd has eaten a clean punch over his career. Now that you know the history of this impeccable defense, let's get to breaking down the foundation of this stance. The Philly shell defense is a style that favors naturally athletic people with excellent reflexes. To get into it, stand in a boxing stance with your lead arm across your torso, somewhere in between your belly button and chest. Your lead hand should be touching your opposite side. Your rear hand should be right next to your face. You'll be using it to block or parry jabs and block hooks. Bring your lead shoulder up to the lower part of your face. You will be blocking straight rights and hooks with it. As a general rule, you should be leaning to your right slightly if in an orthodox stance, and to your left in a southpaw stance. This forces your opponent's right hand to travel further, giving you more time to block, evade, or counter. This also keeps your head off the center, making you harder to get hit. Now that you have your defense set, you have to learn to block punches with that hand. Your lead hand's shoulder is to protect your tucked chin from crosses and right hooks. Your lead hand's forearm, bent in front of your stomach, is to block any punches to the body. And your rear hand should always be close to your chin to protect it from lead hooks or jabs. As southpaws, you just need to apply this with your straight hand as the lead and left hand as the rear. But the Philly shell is never complete without learning how to counterpunch. Counterpunching should be an essential part of your training, as it can change the balance of any fight. However, there are some counters that are more effective than others, especially when your start-off point is the Philly shell stance. The roll and cross. You can watch Floyd Mayweather apply this in different matches, and in some, like the Canelo fight, it was an attribute that got him to the victory. It is essentially to read someone's jab before it comes, and roll with the jab coming back with a hard cross. This is very effective as once the jab is fired and rolled with, the lead hand would be down, leaving one's chin defenseless. Analyzing the opponent's body language could be helpful in knowing when that jab is coming. Most fighters telegraph before jabbing, which means they initially drop their shoulders for a fraction of a second before jabbing. Another way to know when a jab is coming is after another jab. Fighters, especially in lower ranks, throw jabs repetitively until they can set up something good. So when the first jab comes, know the second and the third will too. Catch that opportunity, or the jab as I say, and do your counter. If this works in your next sparring session, come back and subscribe. Or you can click the like and subscribe button right now.